Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and just doing another video. And this is going to be on my top 5 favorite films of this year, 2018. And first off, Happy New Year's Eve to all of you out there. Hopefully you all have a good New Year's Eve, and going out, partying, and just celebrating the new year coming in a few hours here, on the East Coast. And not doing nothing for New Year's Eve. I'm home. Just going to watch Monday Night Raw tonight and review it. It's probably going to be another shitty Monday Night Raw. With it being taped. Another taped Raw. And so this video is going to be on, like I said, my top 5 favorite films of this year, 2018. Which normally every year I do a top 10. But this year I was behind on films because either I was busy, either hanging out with friends or working, and didn't get to see a whole lot of films in the theater this year. There were some that I did see, but mostly the films that I saw this year were basically on stream online. So I didn't get to see like Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, among other films. So this is going to be my top 5 favorite films of this year. And I'm going to start with honorable mentions. I have 3 honorable mentions. And the first one the first honorable mention is Bumblebee. And I did get to see this film today. I went to the theater and watched it. Saw it in Dolby Atmos, which you all have a Dolby Atmos at your theater. I would recommend it. Dolby Atmos is the best viewing experience, the best theater experience, because it makes you feel like you're in the film. Because you have the chairs, the seats that vibrate, and surround sound. Really good experience. If you ever want to see a movie and it's in Dolby Atmos, I would recommend it. Good experience. But Bumblebee, I'm going to review the film tomorrow, but I got 3 things to say about the film. The first is, I liked that the film was set in the 80s, which I really liked. Second thing is, this film got the bad taste out of my mouth after the last Transformers film, Transformers The Last Night, or as I would call it, Transformers The Shit Night. Fuck that film. I hated that piece of shit. And the third thing is this was like a reboot. And it was a breath of fresh air now that Michael Bay is away from this franchise. So that's the 3 things I gotta say about Bumblebee, and I'll review the film, like I said, tomorrow. Talk about it, tell you all what the film is about, and all that. So Bumblebee review will be coming tomorrow on New Year's Day, the first movie review of the new year. And I wanted to go see this film because I wanted to squeeze in one more film for this year to see. So yes, that's the first honorable mention, Bumblebee. The second honorable mention is for a film that came out and it bombed at the box office. It came and went. It wasn't advertised that well, and it is The Darkest Minds. And this is a film that I really enjoyed. It's based off the book of the same name. And the film is basically about these kids who are sent to a camp because there was this disease and they survived it. There were some that survived, and this disease killed off 90% of the children. And the kids that end up surviving this disease developed powers. And the government ends up saying, oh, these kids will be cured. And so what they do is the government ranks them by the color of their powers. and there's 5 colors. There's green, blue, red, gold, and orange. And the green colors, the kids who are the green color, they're the least dangerous. They have intelligence and memories. The blue color people are mildly dangerous. The blue color are mildly dangerous, and they have the people have telekinetic powers. These kids have telekinetic powers, and the kids who are in gold, the gold are somewhat dangerous, and the kids can control electricity. The red are dangerous, which they can manipulate fire. The orange are very lethal, and they can enter and control minds. The kids can enter and control minds. And we deal with this character named Ruby, who is played by Amandla Steinberg. I think that's how you pronounce her first name. And basically we follow her character. Her character can read minds, and she is pretty much like the orange color. So she reads minds, and she escapes the government camp. She ends up finding a group who are on the run from the government because they attain these powers. And pretty much that's basically what the plot to the film is about. But really enjoyed the film. Very likable characters in this film. You have her, Amandla Steinberg. The film also has Mandy Moore, Bradley Whitford, and it's just a very enjoyable film. The film came and went. It came out in August, and the beginning of August, bombed at the box office. It wasn't advertised really well, but Darkest Minds, it's an enjoyable film. It's very underrated, in my opinion. Very underrated film from this year. So I would recommend it if you want to check it out. So that's The Darkest Minds at number 2 on my honorable mentions. And the last film on my honorable mentions is The House with a Clock in Its Walls. And this film was Eli Roth's first ever family film. And the film starred Jack Black, Cate Blanchett, Owen Vaccaro, Kyle MacLachlan. And it's about this kid named Lewis, who is played by Owen Vaccaro. His parents, end up passing away, and he goes to Michigan to live with his uncle Jonathan, who is played by Jack Black. And his uncle lives in this old house, and we find out Jack Black's character, Jonathan, is a warlock. And while Owen Vaccaro's character Lewis is there, in his house, in Jack Black's house, he enters into a world of magic. And so Lewis learns about this warlock, who is played by Kyle MacLachlan. He was the original owner and this evil warlock. And Kyle MacLachlan ended up creating this magical clock that contains black magic to bring on the apocalypse. And the clock never really got finished because he ended up dying. And so it's up to Owen Vaccaro's character Lewis, Jack Black, and their neighbor, who's played by Cate Blanchett, to find this clock, because the clock is in the house, to find the clock and stop it, because the clock will bring the end of the world. And basically that's the plot to the film. But it was a very fun film. I really loved the film. Very likable characters, and although it's a very enjoyable, fun film that I would highly recommend to you all, for a family fantasy comedy horror film. So yeah, I would definitely recommend The House with a Clock in Its Walls. So that's the last film on my honorable mentions. So my honorable mentions were Bumblebee, The House with a Clock in Its Walls, and The Darkest Minds. And now moving on to my top 5 favorite films of this year. Sorry about that, but now moving on to my top 5 favorite films of this year. And coming in at number 5 is a film that has gotten mixed reviews from critics and people who saw it. There are some people who liked the film, who enjoyed it, and there are people who end up really hating this film. And that film is Venom. And I really enjoyed Venom. Saw this in the theater with my friend. We both enjoyed it. I thought Tom Hardy did a good job portraying Eddie Brock, aka Venom. He was very, very likable. You had Michelle Williams, who played Anne Wying, who was Eddie Brock's ex-fiance. She ends up getting with this other guy. You had Carlton Drake, who was played by Riz Ahmed, who is inventor and leader of the Life Foundation, who are experimenting on these symbiotes. Well, actually, in the film, it's called symbiote, which that's excuse me, it's the it's the wrong way to pronounce symbiote. But I thought Venom looked really awesome. Much better portrayal of Venom than how he was portrayed in Spider-Man 3. With Topher Grace portraying him in that film. You also get a Riot, who is also done by Riz Ahmed, who is the 4th symbiote. And I know a lot of people didn't enjoy the comedy aspects of this film, which I really liked. I mean, I thought it was funny in the scene where Eddie Brock is in the tank full of lobsters, which that was funny. And how I liked Venom's sort of like little wisecracks in the film. The action was decent, and all in all, Venom, I really enjoyed it. So if you all want to check out Venom, I would say check it out. Although it's mixed, it got mixed reviews from the crowd, from the people. Some people liked it, some people didn't. But I enjoyed the film. And then you had at the end of the film, in the mid-credits scene, you had Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock. He goes to the jail, and we see Carnage there, sent up for the Carnage film, who was played by Woody Harrelson. Then you had that little after the credits, you had that little scene, like maybe like 5-minute scene of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the preview for it, which I like that also. So yes, that's Venom at number 5. Number 4 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is another film that I really enjoyed. It's not as good as the first film, but it was still entertaining. I liked, of course, Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, Ant-Man. He does a very good job as Ant-Man. I really liked how the way that both Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly, who plays Wasp, they end up teaming up. And although it was a very fun film. You have Michael Pena there, who plays Lewis, reprises his role as Lewis. He was still funny in this film, just like how he was in the first film. Really like how Scott Lang, he's a good father to his daughter. And in this film, he's put on house arrest. And what's his name? Randall Park. He is Scott Lang's parole officer, so he's always checking in on Paul Rudd as Scott Lang. His every move on what he's doing. Michelle Pfeiffer was in there. She was. We find out that she was the original Wasp, who was lost in the quantum realm. Also, you have T.I. in the film, and Sorry about that, but like I said, you had T.I. in the film. Michael Douglas reprised his role as Hank Pym. And Ant-Man and the Wasp, like I said, I enjoyed the film. Not as good as the first movie, but it's worth watching. It's still fun. So yes, that's Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 3 is the film that came out in February. I did see this in theaters, and it's a good movie. It was a good movie. I really liked it. Really enjoyed it. It's also a very good-looking film, and that is Black Panther. And of course, stars Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrero, who you all know from The Walking Dead. She plays Michonne. Angela Bassett was in it. Forrest Whitaker. Chadwick Boseman, very good as Black Panther. He was just very enjoyable. The nation of Wakanda was very good looking. Michael B. Jordan plays the villain. He played a good villain. I like, Michael B. Jordan. He's a good actor. Always liked him in stuff like Fruitvale Station, Chronicle. No, he was in the Creed films, which I'd never seen. And all in all, Black Panther, it was a good portrayal of the character. It was done right. And I said Chadwick Boseman, very enjoyable. And so yes, that's Black Panther. Very good film. Very good Marvel film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that's number 3. Number 2 is a film that I saw a few weeks ago. I think about 2 weeks ago already. And that was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Really love this film. And it's the first animated feature film in the Spider-Man franchise. Which to me, this is one of the best Spider-Man films. Aside from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, Mark Webb's Amazing Spider-Man films, and Spider-Man Homecoming. And this film is shared in a multiverse called the Spider-Verse, which it has alternate universes. This follows the Miles Morales' character, Spider-Man. And the film had really good animation. It was a comic book on the big screen because you get to see, like when Miles Morales in a scene where like he's falling, it shows going down, and when they in the scene where they went to Queens, it would say meanwhile in Queens. It was like a comic book, which I really liked. It was a different kind of animation that we never seen before. And the cast did a good job in the film. Shamik Moore, who voiced Miles Morales, really enjoyable character. That you really like Miles and get attached to him throughout the film. He's a very likable character. There's many incarnations of there's Peter Parker here. You have Peter B. Parker, who was voiced by Jake Johnson, who was Miles Morales' mentor. You have Chris Pine voicing Peter Parker Spider-Man, which that Peter Parker ended up dying, and it inspired Miles to become Spider-Man. Haley Steinfeld, she ended up voicing Gwen Stacy, Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman makes a appearance here, which Haley Steinfeld was also in Bumblebee, which I'll get to that when I review that film. I'll talk about how I liked how she did in the film. And Lily Tomlin, who voiced May Parker, who's Peter's aunt, of course, Peter Parker's aunt. You had Nicolas Cage, who voiced Spider-Man Noir, who was from the 1930s, universe. I like how we got backstories of the characters, like Gwen Stacy, how she became Spider-Woman, Spider-Man Noir, voiced by Nicolas Cage, and you had Peter Porker, and you had the villain in the film, who was Kingpin, who was voiced by Liv Schreiber. And so, yeah, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I would highly recommend it. It's a good Spider-Man animated film. Really loved it. And I would recommend it. Very good film. So that's number 2. And number 1 is pretty much my favorite film of this year. And this film was one of the most anticipated superhero films of this year. And that is Avengers Infinity War. Really loved the film. It was a great Avengers film, great Marvel film, and it was really well done. It was a really well done film. And Thanos is a really great villain. And the end scene where they disintegrate, it was really well done how they did that whole scene. And it ended up becoming a big joke on social media because there were many memes going around where, like, if something happened, they would put in that disintegrate thing from the film. So like I said, it ended up becoming a joke on social media. But all in all, the film was the 4th film and the first superhero film to gross over $2 billion worldwide, and it broke numerous box office records, and it became the highest grossing film of this year, as well as the 4th highest grossing film of all time. And it really deserved it because it was such a good film. It was such a good Avengers film. And I'm really looking forward to Avengers Endgame, which is coming out next year in April. And I saw the trailer to that, the teaser trailer to that. Really looking forward to it. So yes, that's my number 1, Avengers Infinity War. Really love, like I said, really love the film. It's a great Avengers film, great Marvel film, and it was really well done, in my opinion. So yeah, so that's my top 5 favorite films of this year. I'm gonna list the films again. Honorable mentions: Bumblebee, The Darkest Minds, and The House with a Clock at Its Walls. And then my top 5. Number 5, it was Venom. Number 4, Ant-Man the Wasp. Number 3, Black Panther. Number 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And number 1, Avengers Infinity War. So yeah, so I would like to hear what your top 5 favorite films are, or top 10. If you want to list them in the comments down below, I would like to see them and read them. And you all could agree or disagree with my list. It's my list. It's my opinions on my favorite films. Sorry about that, but I was saying, this is my list. You all could agree or disagree with me, on it, but it's my list. If you make your own list, make your own video, make your own list, But yeah, so anyways, that's it for my top 5 favorite films of this year. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all later tonight for my Raw review. So until that, I'll see you all later tonight.